Okay, so we're going to be transitioning now away from the number patterns and the Gauss's method, for finding sums and things like that, and we're going to transition to working with algebra tiles to deal with algebraic expressions and equations. And today I just want to kind of talk about a few topics that are important. Um, as far as algebra is concerned, things that people tend to get a little bit wrong. Um, so I want to talk about three things. So I want to talk about order of operations, and then I want to talk about the difference between expressions and equations. Okay, um, and then I want to talk about um, the correct use of equal signs. Um, and you'll see what I mean when we get there. But then following all of those things, then we'll start to talk about algebra tiles and using algebra tiles to deal with algebraic expressions and stuff. So and today I just plan on introducing you to how algebra tiles work. But anyway, in this video I just want to talk about um, uh, order of operations. So you probably grew up with the acronym PEMDAS, or maybe if you were like me in school, we called this Please Excuse My Dear Aunt Sally. So please excuse my dear Aunt Sally was the way that I remembered it. But I wanted to mention this because, for one thing, students have a lot of misconceptions about the way order of operations work. And so it would be a good idea for us to review that a little bit. But second of all, your project, one of the things that I say in your project is that you should only use parentheses if necessary. Okay? And so we need to review a little bit about when parentheses are needed and when they're not. And so in order to do that, we should review the entire order of operations. So here's what I want you to do. So let me write down an expression, and I want you to simplify this expression. So let's do 3 plus 5 times 2 minus 4 squared. All right, something like that. So go ahead and give the video a pause and see if you can simplify that expression. Okay, so here's my solution. First of all, let me show you a mistake that students often make. So oftentimes students will say, oh, so this is 8 times 2 minus 4 squared, right? Or maybe like they'll realize they have to do the exponent first, and so they'll call it, instead of 4 squared, they'll call it 16, and they'll be like, so it's 8 times 2 minus 16, and they'll say, okay, so then it's 16 minus 16, also then it's just 0, right? The issue with that is that you did this addition first, and you shouldn't have, right? Because in order of operations, addition comes after multiplication. You've got to do this multiplication first. Okay? So the correct way to do this would have been to say, okay, let's follow order of operations. We're going to take care of that exponent. Okay? Then we're going to take care of the multiplication. Then we can do the addition and subtraction. And so you should get, minus 16, I'm sorry. So not 7, but negative 3. So you should get negative 3. Okay? As your final answer there. So just be careful, right? So that's a more common mistake than you might think. But it's important that you get it right. Now, one comment that I'll make is that notice that I didn't put parentheses around that multiplication. It wasn't necessary. If I put parentheses there, then I would get the same answer as I got over here, but they're not necessary. I don't need to put parentheses around the multiplication because, you're going to do that multiplication first anyway. So as far as your project is concerned, if you turned in something like this where the parentheses are unnecessary, I'm going to mark you down some points, right? You don't need you don't need parentheses, and so you should have just written it this way. Now, if I did want to do the addition first, then I would need parentheses, right? So if I wanted to do it this way, this incorrect way, then I should have had parentheses around the 3 plus 5. Okay, and then it would work out. Then it would work out the way that that we did it the first time. Okay. So if I want to do the addition first, then parentheses are absolutely necessary. If I want to do the multiplication first, parentheses aren't necessary because the multiplication is going to be done first anyway. All right. So that's one thing that I want to say about order of operations. Here's another thing. So let's say that you had something like 3 minus 2 times I don't know, x plus 4 plus 2, or something like this. So you cannot combine the x and the 4 because they're not like terms. So the only way you can really simplify this would be to distribute that 2. But a mistake that students often make is that they'll do the subtraction first, and they'll just call this, oh, well, it's just 1 times x plus 4 plus 2. But that's wrong, okay? Because order of operations tells us that we're going to have to do this multiplication first, the 2 times, this thing. So really you should have, you should multiply by negative 2 first. Now when you do that, make sure to take the sign in front. So this is going to be a negative 2x and a negative 8, right? So we're going to have a positive 3, a negative 2x, a negative 8, and then the plus 2 comes along for the ride. Okay, that's what you should really have. And then when you combine your like terms, right, you've got a 3, a negative 8, and a positive 2. So 3 and negative 8 will give you negative 5, and the negative 5 plus 2 will give you negative 3, right? So this should be, and then the 2x is a negative, so it's negative 2x minus 3, right? Okay. Another thing that that I wanted to point out about order of operations, and this is potentially like the biggest problem that people have with order of operations, because they don't realize that multiplication and division work together. You do those two operations at the same time, right? In the same step, in the order that they're written from left to right. And the same thing with addition and subtraction. Okay, those are done in the same step, right? They're done at the same time, I guess, in order from left to right. So let me show you what I mean. Oh, I'll have to think of a good example here. So let's think. So let's say that you wanted to do something like 16 divided by 4 times 4. Oh, I hope this works out. If you are following along with PEMDAS, you would say, multiplication comes first. And so I should do this multiplication. I should do 16 divided by 16. And then I can do the division and get 1, right? But that's not really correct. Because actually, in order of operations, multiplication and division are done in the same step, in the order that they're written, left to right. So 16 divided by 4 times 4, multiplication and division you do at the same time, right? Left to right. So we should do the division first. We should do 16 divided by 4, which is 4, right? So this thing combines to get 4, and then the other times 4 comes along for the ride. And then you would do 4 times 4 is 16. So what you should really end up with is 16. Okay? I think that's all I have to say about order of operations, but hopefully this convinces you, right? So this is not the correct way to do it. You do not do it this way. This is the correct way to do it, okay? Because multiplication and division are done in the same step. All right, so I'll give you some problems that deal with order of operations to kind of practice in homework. That's all I'm going to say for now.